Hello and welcome to Metra Home Theater Tech Tips. I'm Brent McCall and with me is
Adam Rogers.
And today is Fiber Friday. Well, not that kind of fiber, but this kind of fiber. What you guys need to be doing to make your HDMI installations work well into the future. Tell us about it, Adam.
Okay, so today's episode is specifically about AOC cables and how to use them, when to use them.
Be prepared for the future.
There you go. So what we're going to talk about today is kind of the differences of what we have between bulk fiber, what we have between AOC, because the C in AOC is cables, so saying AOC cables is a little redundant. But to make things simple, AOC cables, what's the biggest difference? Well, this actually came from a question from one of our last videos, not the last video, but a couple of them from before.
From the HDMI one.
From the HDMI one, about, you know, what do we do with an AOC cable, or what's the biggest difference between AOC and a bulk? Or actually, we got a call about it when a gentleman had one of our AOC cables in there. There was something that happened, probably a surge of some kind, and actually destroyed that cable to where he couldn't use it anymore.
Destroyed the electronics at either end of the cable.
Exactly. So what was he able to do at that point? Now, luckily, he had a category wire in there, so he was able to use a category extender for that connection. However, he could have also used the AOC cable, because what do we use on the inside of an AOC cable?
And every one of our AOC cables are 4 OM3 fibers, which gives you a great way to move forward. When you're looking at an AOC cable, such as our install bay right here, can you give me a top down, young man?
Sure can. Let me get over there real quick. And I said I could. There we go.
When you're looking at this cable, the electronics, much like an extender or a active cable, in the head shell take the fiber and convert it to a mechanical impulse so that you can get your ones and zeros out of the cable.
Right.
Same thing going into it.
Right.
Now the nice thing about this is in the middle of those two head shells is 4 pieces of fiber. So you can run this right now, use it today, and when the technology leaves you behind, and it's HDMI, so it will.
Yep.
No problem. And that's what we're here to talk about, because there's a lot you can do with this today and a lot of different variances in fiber today.
Right. So specifically, the type of fiber that's inside of our AOC cables, or our HDMI AOC, is OM3 fiber. So the nice thing is it's multi-mode, it's OM3, so we sell OM3 bulk fiber multi-mode cable. So what you can do simply is just take our terminations for our fiber. You can take those terminations, lop off the ends of the HDMI cable, use any of those 4 fiber strands inside of there.
And they are color-coded?
Yeah, and they are, yep. And just attach that termination to it, and now you've got a fiber cable.
Well, you still do need to use some kind of extender.
Yeah, you still want to be able to use
today.
Yeah, today anyways, until, you know, the future when things change for that. But until then, you will need some kind of HDMI adapter to go from HDMI to fiber to back to HDMI on the other side. So
there certainly has been a push, particularly in the commercial world, to move to LC terminations right on the gear.
Right.
And again, if you put this in now, you're fully prepared, whether it's plenum, head shell equipped, head shell removable. There's a lot of future already built into that product.
So one thing before we go too far, as always, everybody, if you have any questions or if you have any comments about it, definitely put them down in the comments below. Let us know what you have in mind for it. We are giving away something again today, as always.
Ooh, what's today?
So for today, we are giving away one of the install bay AOC cables.
How about we give away John's slice of red velvet cake?
Red velvet cake. It is.
It's birthday Friday at the office, and we just saw the cake go by. Sorry.
So with that, ask your questions, put your comments down in the comment section below. Give us a like, subscribe to our channel, and everything really helps us out a lot to let us know, one, what's a good video, what's information that you all want to hear, and also it kind of spurns things along to move things forward with that. So again, ask your questions. The best question, best comment today will win. I believe it's a 50-foot AOC cable.
I believe you.
Okay. So
you talked about it earlier this week.
Yeah, we did, which you've already forgotten, I'm assuming anyways.
I'm old.
Just making sure. Okay. So with that being said, happy Friday, Jimmy. Thanks for the comments. We would like to see that. So,
and by the way, on our last broadcast, the comments were fantastic.
Yes, thank you very much for that.
We got a lot of them. There's a lot for us to go over to pick the winner from the last episode.
Yep.
We will announce that next week.
As soon as we can,
and by the way, don't forget, next Wednesday is Techs and Reps with Chris Deutsch from JVC and Russell Warnhoff from SI.
That's right. We actually have another person from SI on there as well, from Screen Innovations, and it is, I believe it's Jason Russell.
Yes, I remember.
Yes, okay. Well, anyways, check us out next Wednesday as well.
And send us your questions.
Yeah.
And more importantly, send them your questions.
Right. So it's going to be a panel discussion at that time with everybody on there, so you can ask your questions not only to Metra team, me and Brent, but you can also ask it to the JVC guys, or you can ask it to the Screen Innovation guys.
And coming up, we're also going to have our LED episode.
We are. The following Friday after that, we're going to do an episode on LED. We're going to have our friends in the office next door from Heiss, Metra Heiss LEDs. They're going to come on and we're going to talk about how to use LEDs in an installation at a home, in a commercial setting, use it as track lighting on the ceiling, use it inside of your rack, wherever you want to use it. We even have an interesting topic from one of our dealers about possibly using it as an outdoor
with one of our speaker mounts.
With one of our speaker mounts. It's kind of interesting. We're going to see where it goes with that, but we're going to talk about that at the time.
Remember, you guys really do direct what we do and how we do it here.
Right.
So give us your input and let us know. So, back to topic.
Yep. So what we're talking about today, like we said before, it is Fiber Friday. We're talking about the AOC and HDMI AOC and what the biggest differences are.
Now,
so,
I have some questions right out of the gate.
Yeah, go for it.
Is our fiber 24 gigabits capable right now?
Yes.
And why is that?
Because we are using 4 channels at 6 pardon me. Yes, 4 channels at 6 I had to do math real quick. 4 channels at 6 gigs per channel. So right now we are able to do 24 gigs on our HDMI AOC cable.
Which means when 2.1 starts to roll out, we are prepped for the beginning stages of HDMI 2.1 right now.
Right.
As a transmission method.
Right. So one of the biggest questions that we had was, well, if you have a fiber connection and you're using an SFP module, you're usually going to be able to pick up anywhere from 40 to 100 gigabits worth of bandwidth, gigabits per second bandwidth. And the question was, well, are we not seeing 40 gigabits of bandwidth on there because we're getting 48 or 100? How are we limited there? And the answer to that is very simple. When you're using an SFP module, you're either using a dual strand to go from one connection and back to the other, so you get transmit and a receive, or you're using a single line in that connection. Now, with our fiber HDMI cables, what we're using is 4 strands, and we're only using 6 gigs currently per strand.
Now, that is limited not by the fiber,
right,
but by the electronics in each head shell. Now, when people talk 40, 60, 100 gig, what they're referring to is very expensive electronics that go to either end of the cable.
Right.
That effectively would put a product like this completely out of the marketplace because of the cost. However, when you put this in and it's working right now for anything you can purchase today and in the near future,
right,
when you need to go to 48, 96, or wherever it goes next, we have the capability already built into it.
Right. And actually, Ellen, that answers your question there. Ellen was asking, explaining to the integrators the difference between the pre-made AOC as opposed to purchasing the bulk fiber and then terminating and getting the HDMI extender adapter. Where is the best value?
Without question, this.
Yeah, and currently at this point in time, and for what you're able to use it for. If you're going to be using it solely for an HDMI connection, put it in an HDMI AOC cable. If you are going to be using if you're going to be doing a pre-wire and you have an opportunity to put the bulk fiber wire in, if you're going to, in the future, you're not sure exactly what you're going to use it for, whether it be data, whether it be video, whether it be whatever, you put in the bulk fiber because then it's there as an available channel in order to get whatever you need to at that location.
The nice thing with an AOC is any of them from us, the install bay, regular or detachable head shell, you've got easily 4 to 6 years of legitimate usable lifespan of this. It's going to take a while for us to get to 48. Not just distance in the cables, but the hardware has to be able to support it also. And right now, what we can deal with and what we can see for the near future, this handles everything. So you can put this in and know you've got a lot of years of usage before you have to worry about obsolescence.
Right. So with that, that's you're putting in that cable in there. You're getting the, like Brent said, you're getting the 4 years or so of usage now, minimum now, and then in the future, then as we get more and more bandwidth requirements, hey, you've got four strands, not just 1 strand or 2 strands. You have 4 strands of fiber inside of that one line, so that you can then extend that availability of usage much
Farther into the future.
Much farther into the future. Now, Brent, what I'd like to do I would like you to look at this cable.
I'm socially distancing myself from you.
Actually, what I'm going to do, I'm going to extend this out to 6 feet.
Oh,
here.
I'm already seeing something there.
So let's see. We're going to go ahead and do this here. And there you go. And, oh, let's see. Ellen says, and if they are running bulk for future, do you recommend 2 runs or are you comfortable with just 1? If you can run 2, run 2. If you can run 3, run 3. If you can run 4, run 4.
Here's the thing. Every time technology or bandwidth leaps up, it takes them a while to get the chipsets down to a single port.
Right.
Just like in the early days of HDMI, it took 2 category cables to get 5 gig.
Right.
When HD Base T, their first 18 gig transmission system was actually 2 category cables. They determined that was unfeasible for the market, so they just compressed the heck out of it. But they could have gone 2 wires.
Right.
And if you didn't have it, guess what?
You didn't have it.
So if you've got extra fiber, whether it's data, whether it's video, whether you're carrying multiple feeds, you've got it there. It's always better to have too much than too little. And then stuff just plain and simply happens.
Yeah, exactly. So, Brent, we've got this wonderful cable here. It's a very well constructed cable. Now, this one unfortunately did come back as defective. Further down the line here in this loop, there's actually a kink in it.
And you can see them.
Yeah. So with that there, Brent, this is a wonderful cable. However, what I wanted to do today is actually something like this. I want to go ahead and, I love my job. I get to destroy stuff. That's always fun. So what we've got here, I wanted to go ahead and show this. I'm going to go ahead and give us a top-down view, so you guys can actually see the short end of the stick. Yeah, you get the short end. Well, you're used to that anyways, right? I mean, yeah, come on. All that to say, I'm going to give you guys a top-down view to see what the cable construction looks like, and we're going to take it a step further. I'm actually going to show you, it's not just the cable construction for the fiber. I want to show you some of the other strands that are actually inside of there and how this works. So we're going to switch over here. Oh, hey, you hit the button, I hit the button. All right, so what we have in here, and actually this might be a little hard for you to see. I should have zoomed in the camera a little bit more. But what I'm going to do here, I'm going to use this handy-dandy stripper tool here, and I'm going to strip this back. So this is the outer jacket. Now, and yeah, that's going to work okay. So with the outer jacket, it's very simple. This is a, Brent, do you happen to know what kind of outer jacket that is? This is not a plenum rated cable.
No, it's a PVC. It is a CL rated.
That's a CL rated, yes.
And by the way, with fiber, you still have to have CL ratings because there is copper in that cable.
Exactly. So inside of here, we've got a couple things going on. First and foremost, this little piece here, see that little piece waggling there? I don't know if you can see it or not. If you guys can see that, let me know in the comments and make sure you can see that. If not, we'll go ahead and try something a little bit different here. Or there we go. That might be a little bit better. See if the light shines on it just right. So right there, this piece here isn't just for strain relief. This is actually one of the grounding wires from inside of the HDMI cable. This is used to ground from from the TV or the sink back to the source or the Blu-ray player, whatever it is.
Which is important for the EDID and the 5 volt and the hot plug.
Exactly. So you have that there. Now what you do have for strain relief in here is you have this Kevlar stranding inside there. That's that kind of yellow piece there for that. Now, normally what you would see inside of a regular bulk wire, this or the bulk fiber is this Kevlar, because this is what you're going to use for strain relief when you actually terminate the cables. You're also going to use that when you're pulling the wire through the wall. So what we have from there, we have a couple different strands of copper, and what these strands are going to give us inside of one of these AOC cables is the EDID information, the 5 volt hot plug, as well as the 5 volt trigger from the source to the display. So these are all very important, and just to give you an idea, these are not fiber. These are still copper, because at this point, for the distances that you have to go, these don't take a lot of bandwidth. You don't need to worry about getting all this information across there from the source to the display. So it does make a big difference with that when you're trying to have basically, we're trying to save money at this point for, when you're doing the installation, because if you do a straight fiber connection, all of that has to be done through a processor of some kind. You have to then say, the source says, hey, I'm sending 5 volt to the TV. Well, then your HDMI transmitter over fiber then has to come up with some way to tell the receiving side that, hey, send 5 volt to the TV. There's a lot more
multiplexing of information going on versus having discrete wires to do it.
Exactly, and that's why right now AOC is still the best way to go, the longer distances, because at that point it's still at a cheaper side rather than having to pay the extra money for that.
Less expensive side.
Pardon me, less expensive, thank you.
More value.
More value. So with that there, for all of these extra pieces, I'm actually going to go ahead and, if you'll let me top down with that, I'm going to pull those off to the side. And what we are left with is one white jacket. Now this white jacket here, multi-melting, bulk fiber, special cable. We're going to come back to that one. So what we have here, this one strand, it contains all 4 fiber strands from inside of this cable. So very simply, all I'm going to do here is I'm just going to use my fingernail. Don't do this at home. Use this a correct tool for this. But I'm using my fingernails for that.
Don't try this at home, children.
Yeah, right. Let's see if I can get that. Ah, see? There we go. That's even better. So inside of here, you've got your 4 strands of AOC fiber. Now, what I want to talk about here, Brent, I want to go back over to our screen here. What I want to talk about here is the fact that we are taking a total of 12 wires and decreasing it down to 4.
And ultimately 1.
And ultimately 1. So what we're doing here is when you have a standard HDMI cable, inside of there for the TMDS lines, we have a total of 12
Yes, we do.
strands.
And why is that?
Because we have to have send, receive, and ground.
It's called a differential system.
Differential system, thank you.
Much like an XLR for the audio guys.
Right. So we have to have that for every single channel. That's 4 channels. And when you're doing it the correct way by having 4 equal channels, we have 4 equal channels, which means we have 12 equal distance lines.
Plus overall shields.
Going all, yeah, exactly, overall shields. And that's what that extra one is there on that piece. So all of that, the structure of the cabling, this is just some information for you guys out in the field to know what we have to put up with when we're doing the manufacturing side of things. It's not just a cable to make sure that they're kind of in the right distance and length
wait a minute.
and everything.
Are you saying that all cables aren't the same? Digital's not digital, it doesn't just work?
That's an entirely different episode.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll hold that one for a little bit. But unless you guys want to talk about it today, let us know in the comments. So yes, the point of this is the fact that when you have a standard copper HDMI cable, what you're running into is for the TMDS, which is the actual lines or the feeds of the actual video
and audio
going from the source to the display. Everything else is just information about the 2 devices talking to each other. I'm this, I can do this, I'm this, I can display this. Those types of communications.
Voltage triggers.
Yeah, all the different triggers and whatnot. Those are handled on the other low speed, or what we call low speed
DDC lines.
The DDC lines. Now the TMDS lines are the high speed. That's where the bandwidth requirements are. But you have 12 in a standard copper cable.
Out of 19.
Out of 19. So what we're able to do now is we decrease the number of wires inside of a single cable from a total of 19, and we subtract out another 8 cables out of that, so the entirety inside there just should only be about 11, unless I'm miscounting somewhere in there.
Additional grounds.
Additional grounds.
You've got CEC,
yeah.
You've got the Ethernet, there's a lot of other things going on there. Mm-hmm. But when you take those 12 out, mm-hmm. and it's not just those 12 conductors, because each of those groups of 3
right.
has an overall shield. Now those shields tie together, but they still add to the bulk of the wire.
Right.
And that's the big plus of all of this is the bulk of that wire's gone.
Yeah, we just don't have those wires inside there. We don't have all of that extra shielding inside of there. We're able to get a much, much, much smaller, and I'll show you here again, a much smaller cable. Now, if you know our MHX, or our MHX line of cables, you'll know that it's a much thicker cable compared to this.
Yep,
on
sorry.
That there. Nope, you're good.
You were already there.
Yep. So we'll do, twist that a little bit for me right there, thank you. So you'll see that there's actually quite a bit of a difference between the 2 of those when you're doing this. Now both of these will send the same amount of data across them, however,
depending on the distance.
We're doing a much, much, much smaller cable here, cable diameter, because we just don't have the content inside of there. Now if you know our MHX, or our MHY line, which is our slim line HDMI cables, do we have one here? I don't see one there.
No.
Yeah, we got it somewhere else. Anyways, all that to say,
Behind
it is
you.
a very thin cable.
I'm going to break our
go for
social.
It is a very thin cable, and that cable, because it's so thin, we're actually having to decrease the gauge of the wire, which means that at longer distances, we're losing voltage, or we're losing current, is the correct way to talk about that, across that cable. So we gain, there we are, thank you very much.
Don't pull too hard.
Oh, you're still attached? No, it's still attached over here. So there we go. Okay, you can see that down in the corner. There you go. But what that is, so you can see the diameter about that is about the same. However, we can go much longer distances with that AOC cable because of the fact that we are able to do everything over fiber, and we get everything cut down to just those 4 fiber strands, and then some extra grounding wires and protection or insulating wires as well. So that is one of the greatest benefits of an AOC cable, much longer distances with a much smaller diameter cable.
And a whole lot longer future ahead of it.
A heck of a lot future along with it. So at that point, what I want to talk about here, bring this back up because there was a good question in here. So Bob L is asking, when you say 4+ years, are you saying 48 gigabit sources will not be available for that amount of time? Or is the new HDMI 2.1 only going to be 24 gigs initially?
My philosophy, my thought process, because we don't know these answers yet,
Right.
is we're not in a position to legitimately, over an industry-wide situation, transmit 48 gig now.
Right.
We think that what we're going to see is DSC, display stream compression, where they're going to take what could be 48 and cram it down into 24 to 30.
Right.
Because they're going to have to do this out of the gate, plain and simply. The TVs really are not ready.
Yep.
The hardware is really not ready.
Right.
The infrastructure to support the content's really not ready. We will get to 48, and 48 will be the compression from 86.
Yeah.
Or 96, excuse me.
Yeah. No.
So,
yeah. No,
Yeah,
96.
96.
Yep.
We're going to get there, but I don't think we're going to get there bold, raw 48
Right away.
instantly.
Well, and when we look at even 4K now at 18 gigs, the reality is a lot of the stuff that you look at that's in
Still
4K.
at 13.65.
It's still down at 13. So with that being said, when we get to the point of the 4-year mark, yeah, 4 years is really where we're going to start seeing some true 8K content doing
Raw-
48
raw
gigs.
48.
Yeah, exactly. So just like we see to that. So
Now, and remember, not just between your television and your source, we have to get it to the source.
right.
So it has to get into your house, and the vast majority of Americans are not ready to support that level of uncompressed data
Right.
coming out of a streaming device today.
Right. One of the other questions that we have on here is, if LC connections are the future, would this be single mode or multi-mode, bulk fiber or special cable? So if I understand the question correctly, LC connectors, it's not necessarily that LC connectors are the future.
They're the current.
Well, it's not even that so much that they're the current. When you take, say, an RJ11 or an RJ45, RJ11 is used for phones, RJ45 is used for computers. And so it's not necessarily that it's one's taking over the other, it's just that they're used in different applications. So it depends on the devices. If you have an SFP module, in most cases, those are using an LC connector. If you have a media converter, or what's called a media converter, a lot of times those are using SC connectors. There's also different types of connectors on top of that as well. If you're going much longer distances with, say, kilometers, like with an OM1 or an OM2 or OM4, there's so many different types of fiber out there, which is an entirely different episode that we should do as well on those different types of fibers. However, those use a completely different type of connector, and there's hundreds upon hundreds of different types of connectors. So
A lot of it's manufacturer specific.
exactly, yeah. So it all depends on your application. If you're going to be using it inside of our devices currently, we use LC connectors in most cases. And in fact, currently in all cases that we use fiber at all, we're using LC. However, in your case, being out in the field, and I mostly see as an installer LC connectors being used in that environment. SC connectors may be used more in a commercial aspect, but again, it just depends on what kind of device you're using and if they're using LC or SC connectors.
It kind of comes back to the 568A or 568B.
Yeah, exactly. They do the same thing, it's just
Different.
So let's see, how to connect. So Yusuf Muhammad is asking how to connect. And I'm assuming if you're talking about how to use the AOC cables with our terminations, let's go ahead and talk about that.
Ooh, I'm going to step away so I can maintain social distancing.
So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to switch this back over. And again, guys, keep the questions coming, keep the comments coming. We want to hear from you about what you think about the show. We want to hear from you about what you think about what we're talking about. If you have any questions about what it is that we are talking about, let us know what those are as well. So from there, I'm going to go ahead and switch this back over to the top, and we're going to go ahead and terminate this really, really quickly. So what I have here with me today is we've got our LC connectors here. We have our fiber AOC cable from one of our install bay cables here. And what
that you
I'm
just
going
cut.
to do, that I just cut, what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to strip this back a little bit more to give us some more to work with. Now, what's interesting is that these strippers here actually come with our fiber kit, which is available with that. Contact your rep, contact your distributor to find out pricing on those kits. But these are designed in such a way that they come pre-configured for our bulk cable. But they can still be used with this. You just need to find the correct one to use to strip out the outer jacket. But you may not want to grab it all the way, or, close it all the way down on it. You may just want to close it down a little bit. Just take some practice. Takes a little bit of
cutting a little long.
Trying with it. Now, what I am going to do, all of this here extra, I am going to trim it back, except for the Kevlar, because we're going to want to use that Kevlar as a
strain relief.
Strain relief. Thank you. I knew the word was in there somewhere.
And you talk about my age?
Let's do this. Okay, so what we have here, we're left with our Kevlar strands. We're left with 4 fiber strands inside of there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick one. And I think today we're doing the orange one. And I'm actually going to snip the other fiber out of the way. And cut
Do
that
not do
off
this
there.
in the field. This is for demonstration purposes only.
Well, even with this, now are you saying for...
Hang on to your fiber. Don't cut yourself short.
Yeah.
It always annoys me when an integrator cuts his wires short on a job site.
We have history about that, don't we, Brent? So with that being said, let's switch over here real quick and see what we got going on with the comments. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now what we have here, we've actually jumped a couple steps ahead when it compared to our bulk fiber, because our bulk fiber has an outer jacket. That's what this kind of teal color is here. And normally we would have to strip that off. Now, basically that step is taking this entire piece here, this outer jacket and all the excess here on the inside and get rid of it and move it out of the way. So our inner shielding that we would normally see, and by the way, guys, check out our previous videos that we've talked about this. We have previous videos. We actually did a fiber video with Kyle Cashwell, one of our sales reps for the West Coast. He and I were on there, and we actually went through and did a termination on our bulk fiber. Check that out. It is also a tech tip. You should see it somewhere over on one of the sides over there or over there. So check that out as well after this episode, and you can ask some more questions there. So what we have here, we're going to jump right in. Now, I'm going to take our terminations, and on our terminations here, we actually have the different lengths that we need to worry about. So from here, I'm going to lay this out, and very simply, I'm going to find the point that I need to strip back from there so we can terminate this connection. So I'm doing this a little bit quickly here, and I'm jumping a couple steps. Take your time with this. I would recommend doing normal bulk fiber first before doing this portion of it here with a AOC cable, because you want to kind of practice on the correct way to do it with the bulk fiber. That way when you go to doing something like this, which is more custom, so to speak, you kind of have a better idea of how to do it for one. So again, let's see if we can see that there. There you go. So what you have here, you have your bare fiber at that point. This is the point where we need to be mindful. While it's not inherently dangerous in this case here, we definitely don't want to, after cleaving it, we don't want to leave that laying about. So now that I know my distance, I'm going to use my measuring tools. And I'm going very quickly with this, guys, because we don't have a lot of time to do too much with this right now. So I'm just going through as quickly as I can because we need to move on and see if we have more questions. So I'm going to put this in like so. So I get the correct length. I'm going to lock that down with that. And I don't know if you all can see that or not. So when you watch the other video, I'm going to talk about the placements of the different fiber portions on the measuring tool. It's very important to know where to place that on there, because at this point, right before we go to cleave this through the cleaver, that is the most important measurement out of all of the measurements that we make. We can fudge on a couple of the other ones. This is the one that we want to be the most precise on. So we're going to go in here, get our fiber cleaver. We're going to put it in like so. Now, this is a little bit, there we go, just kind of like that. We'll put it down like that. Do the cleaving portion of it there. Open it up. The excess falls into the waste bin because we do not, and actually it did not fall. There we go. Do not leave the fiber strands on your client's floor. It can be dangerous, and it's something that we don't want to do. That's why we include that waste bin on the cleaver. So from there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my LC connectors. And again, this is OM3 fiber, so you could use an LC or an SC connector, or if you have a different type of termination for the fiber, so long as it is for an OM3 fiber, you can use it however you'd like. So from there, and I'm actually jumping again another couple steps, so I need to slow down and get the tools necessary. We're going to take the dust cap off of this LC to SC adapter. We're going to couple that together there, and if you can see that, we make that connection for that. Now what I'm going to use is the other side of this is an SC connector, because the visual fault locator, which has a light on it, connects to the SC connector. And once we do that, make that connection there, we'll turn the light on, and you can see that that lights up. Now, we're going to use that light to know to make sure that we have a good termination. So I'm going to set this down, and I'm going to very carefully and very gently feed the boot on, because I forgot to feed the boot on before, and get that out of the way. Now, I'm going to take the fiber, and I'm going to feed it here inside. And as you watch, the light should dim. See that there? Once that light dims, we're going to come over here, push this metal piece, this metal clip through. That locks it into place. Once we have that on there, we're going to take our boot, and if we can get everything here to cooperate, make our connection there. Take off the LC adapter there, and we are terminated, and we're done. So with that, that's the easiest way to get that to terminate the fiber AOC cable. That was a very quick way to do it. Watch the other videos that we have. We actually have a fiber termination video that will walk you through. It's a little bit longer. You can watch me as we go through and do the different steps. Again, we have that video with me and Kyle where we talk about fiber.
Kyle and I.
Thank you for correct English.
Yeah.
Now, what I'd like to do as well is show you that this is an actual termination. You can use this on the other side. So what we have here is the other side of this HDMI cable. Simply cutting off the end of this cable off to the side there. I'm going to reattach this piece here, this light adapter, or pardon me, the SC to LC adapter, and you will see that we have light coming out of the other side. So you can use a fiber or a HDMI AOC cable as a fiber connection. That way, if you for some reason put a HDMI AOC cable backwards in a wall, because again it is directional,
and it does happen,
and it happens to the best of us, raise your hand.
I'm not I can honestly say to date,
It's never happened to you?
to date,
Okay.
because remember, I was at the very beginning of this active stuff and had to preach
that's
it.
true, that's true.
However, I have had my guys build my booth with them backwards.
Yes. So we've run into issues like that before in the past.
And it does happen to an amazing amount of people.
Yeah, and it does. And the thing is that you don't normally realize that it's happened until after the drywallers have come in
and
they've put in all this beautiful built-in bookwork, you know, bookshelf work, and everything's nice and done. And you go in there and you're doing the trim out and you're plugging things in, and hey, I've got no video. And then you give us a call and we talk about what's going on. And
we ask you to read what it says on the head shell.
And it says source at the display, and it says display at the source. Well, unfortunately, it's backwards. And you can either pay the extra money to get the contractor back in there to open the wall back up again, or save a little bit of money.
Move forward with an extender, and you're done.
Exactly. So you can chop off the ends, use a fiber connection, and you're good to go.
And by the way, when you look at extenders, they do offer some things in the extenders typically that the cable does not, such as serial connection, IR capability.
Right.
Some have audio breakouts.
Right.
So there's a lot of flexibility. Now, you do pay substantially more to get that. But it does give you a tremendous growth going forward. This works right now today for everything you need it to do.
Yeah.
But you're wide open in the future if you put that in.
So this is actually a really good question. Bob L is asking, would a single fiber of the AOC cable be able to support 48 gigabits or greater with an HDMI extender?
Depends on the extender. The
Exactly.
technology to do that within an extender today, to my knowledge,
Right.
does not exist. That doesn't mean they're not working on it. Certainly the single fiber itself is capable of that bandwidth. It just comes down to the electronics at either end of the fiber.
So when you're using OM3 fiber, what you are going to look at, and what I'm looking for here, so long as the fiber itself with our fiber here, it will support. Man, I should have had this information ahead of time, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah. But with that,
I would do a little song, do a little dance, but it's not going to take that long.
Let's see. Specs OM3 in particular made for 10 gig transmission speed, but it is also compatible with and can function under 40 gig and 100 gig. So yes, what you're able to do, you can get up to 100 gigs per second of bandwidth on an OM3 fiber cable. So technically, yes, in the future when we do actually have the need for 100 gigs connection, and if we have an extender that will take an HDMI,
and
if it's
HDMI, there will be.
Even if it's HDMI at that point, we don't even know if that's going to be what the connection is. It may be an actual straight fiber connection to the back of a display to the source. When we get up to that requirements of that high of a bandwidth,
and that is high bandwidth,
something really different. But yes, at that point, you will have that connection. You will also have the capabilities of doing two-way IR at that point. It is multi-mode, so technically you can do two-way inside of multi-mode fiber, which, again, we should probably do an entire episode just on
the feature sets and capabilities.
Yeah, exactly. With that, so you are able to get those different speeds. If you need an LC connector, or pardon me, an SFP module that has both a transmit and a receive, you'll be able to use 2 of those strands out of the 4 to be able to do that, which gets you even higher bandwidth capabilities. I believe that's how they get into the 100 gig capabilities, so you'll have that available to you as well.
One of the nice things with 4 conductors is if you want to take, in the future, turn one of these into a high-speed IP connection, that 4th one is already there.
Right. Now, Bob, keep these questions coming. These are great.
I like this one. Puts him in the running for the.
It really does. I think he really wants that cable.
He wants that cable, yeah.
He's asking, are the ones with the detachable head shells, are IB-HD AOC-D cables, able to be upgraded to greater bandwidth?
No.
No. And the reason for that is the electronics that actually handle the portion to this are built into this portion of the cable. The head shell itself is literally just an adapter to go from a micro HDMI to a full-size HDMI. Where are you at?
I have no clue where I'm at. No, I still have no clue where I'm at.
We're switched back over here. Okay, all that to say,
no.
Right now, it's not a piece that you can just detach because the electronics itself are actually part of the attached portion of the cable. So you would have to cut off the ends and use the fiber
When
inside.
you look at this is just the mechanical connection.
Right.
So there is no way to run the light directly into that. So it has to be done right off the fiber itself.
Exactly. Let's see if we have any others here.
We'd also like to say hello to Ellen again.
Yeah, Ellen, thank you very much for the questions and the kind hellos. We love hearing from you. That's pretty much all the questions that we have for that, and that's essentially what we've talked about today is the benefits of AOC. When you talk about having the options of doing either an active copper cable versus doing an AOC cable, our recommendation at this point in time is put an AOC cable in there.
Now, and what's today's secondary tech tip that we learned this afternoon?
Ha! Okay, so this one's great. So we literally learned it today. I had to leave early.
Something was reinforced.
We learned, we learned to reinforce this again. I actually had to leave work at some point today and had to go figure out how to fix a problem. And the fix of the problem was rebooting your equipment. So our secondary tech tip for the day today is don't forget to reboot your equipment. Give it, set it up on a schedule. If you have the ability to have some kind of module in place that will actually automatically reboot it, or if you can put programming in, take advantage of it, reboot your equipment. Fairly often. If you
reboot early, reboot often.
Reboot early, reboot often. Don't do too much. If you reboot something too much, that can have adverse effects to doing that. But rebooting, we usually say once a week for like a modem is a good reboot time for that. Do it at like 3 a.m. when no one is using the system. If someone is using it at 3 a.m., find another time when they might not be using it.
And if they are using it at 3 a.m., why?
Yeah, that's another discussion entirely. So with that, definitely don't forget, set up a schedule, reboot your equipment, so you can get that all taken care of. So
to quote Bob Barker, spay and neuter your pets. Spay and neuter your pets.
And reboot your equipment.
I'm Brent.
I'm Adam.
Thanks, guys.
We'll see you next time.
Friday.
No, Wednesday. Today's Friday.
Oh, yeah, today's. Next Wednesday, JVC, Screen Innovations, Techs and Reps.
Techs and Reps. We'll see you there, guys. 3 o'clock, 3 p.m. Eastern Time.